Hello.
Thank God, because I couldn't stare at myself much longer.
There's just a recording of you
I'm
looking
like,
at yourself.
literally, it's gonna be. I'm like, oh, I think this cheek is bigger than the other cheek, and then I'm like, oh, my makeup came out kind of good. I was about to call a modeling agency.
I'm just looking at myself here, and I am gorgeous. Hello, and welcome to Table for Five with No Reservations. Take a seat at the table for a fresh, sweet, salty, tart, and pleasantly bitter conversation.
Hi, everyone. I want to welcome you to the table. Tonight, we have Adrian Wood with us and also the ladies. We've got Tabitha.
Hi.
Jen.
Hello.
Kimmy.
Hi.
Jamie.
Hey.
And Adrian.
Hey.
Adrian writes on Tales of the Educated Debutante, and she keeps me smiling. And I know I can speak for all the ladies at the table. There's just this fresh look at another family in this autism life. And also, Adrian is hysterical and filter-free and inspiring and just so real. You feel like you know her. I'm having a little Twitter-pated heart because I'm fangirl. Feel friends because I know how to be in your kitchen. Adrian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Adrian Wood. I have 4 children. My littlest, Amos, has autism and a genetic disease called MSL3. And I live in Eastern North Carolina in a teeny tiny rural place called Edenton. It's a town of about 5,000. So everybody really does know everybody, which can be good or bad, especially if you're a blogger who doesn't always wear a bra to the grocery store. It's a bit of a problem. Yeah, and I started writing. Well, I've written my whole life, but when Amos was about 2.5, I started this blog really as a way to just, I guess, I was really scared about his future. He didn't have a diagnosis, and I was looking at this little fella who I loved, but I was so filled with fear of what the future was going to be like. And I thought, I just have to write this. Like, I can't sink under all this. So I started writing really just for myself and thought, well, I'll tell other people things that maybe I didn't know. So either I wasn't listening or people weren't telling me. And never had any expectations that it would be really anything other than just a kind of a hobby pastime. But 6 years later now, it's a career move for me, and it's great. I can be home with my children and be myself and, call it a job. So it's really been a gift.
I just love it so much. I feel like we have that in common. And like, it's hard to know how to integrate how much of your kids or your journey as the parent, or are you going to bring the health stuff in, the medical stuff? Like, where are you going to lay the filters if you have any? And watching someone be so genuine and fearless is just such a breath, because you talk about everything from hilarious stuff in the current events. Get it? Hilarious. To all the crime stuff. I just feel like your balance is so refreshing and so current, and you're just zero given.
Yeah, I think we're all, obviously Kate Swenson is a dear friend of mine, and she writes about autism, and I was like, you have a great following because you have this group of people that like know what you're talking about. And I think sometimes people are like, what the hell am I doing over on her page? What is she talking about? Well, I'm really just like talking about whatever floats on my radar or matters to me. So it's not for everybody, but it's exactly who I am. Some days autism is first and foremost in my mind, and other days, it's Hollywood gossip, or it might be a crime story, or it could be education, politics. It's just really where my heart follows, I guess.
Are you a know-it-all?
Yes, I have been called a know-it-all, Noitall, and sold, I think, about 300 shirts.
Yes.
I love it.
I love that. That's so funny.
I was laughing at your Dear Haters post.
I love that
went down the list because I'm like, and you quoted, so you knew it wasn't what you had written, obviously.
Yeah, yes.
These people that are coming at you, they need to use the Google. Their grammar is atrocious. It's like, you care too much. It's like, no, it's TOO. You missed an O in that one, but
right.
Yeah.
in the big blogging world, there's this thought that you should never feed the trolls. You should walk away from them. It's sort of like your mother with talking about somebody at school, like just ignore them. Well, I've never been like an ignore type. And so I have such fun getting the trolls. I mean, it makes it fun because it's like, what? Who are you? Like, have you looked at your profile picture? Why is it always a cat?
Oh my God, the cats.
The cats. It's never an actual person.
Yes.
It's always the cats.
Leave the cats alone.
People that love cats hate me. And I have 2 cats.
You have people in your profile picture, Jen. You're not the people she's talking about.
No, I'm laughing like these poor cats. People are using a cat as a front.
Yeah.
Cat.
So
Want to be
funny.
a badass behind a computer? Let's see your face. See your face.
I was gonna say, I think that's why people who follow you love you, is because you're so genuine, writing about whatever you want, and the fact that you can go after the trolls. Because, like, for me, when I get a troll comment on my page, I like freeze up and I'm like, there's some, and then like a week later, I'm like, I just thought of something really clever to say, but you're so quick, like you're just so good about it.
The video I did about Hilaria Baldwin, which is obviously just sort of, absolute gossip. But I find it so intriguing for someone to pretend they're from another culture. I mean, and it's equally terrible, right?
Oh, you got me on that. I was reading other articles and it led me to other stuff. And I'm just like, and then I'm like, after 45 minutes, I'm like, who cares? What am I doing?
I know.
Adrian literally is the
The whole
source,
background.
the source
so
of my
intriguing.
wormhole all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need an escape like that. Like, this is intriguing. What has happened? One person was like, you keep pushing up your glasses too much. I was like, I'll try to do it more often.
Oh, yeah.
God dang. One of the things that I had thought about is I've compared you to like all of the things on the coffee table. Like, you are the People magazine. You are my Anderson Cooper. You are like, just, there's so many facets to what you'll talk about that are so relevant for me. And when I looked on your, like the couple of sentences of about on your page, it says, satire meets truth, faith meets irony, despair meets hope. It's all to escape the laundry. Get it, girl.
True.
Our beginning of our podcast says fresh, sweet, salty, tart, and pleasantly bitter conversations. And I feel like that's to represent the 5 of us. But the part that makes all of us sweat a little and just be Twitter-pated to be in your presence is that you get to be all of them at one damn time. So proudly.
Well,
like, it's just awesome.
It's more fun to have a conversation together. I do. Yeah. That's really nice. Like, I would like that. I'm always trying to because I'm so unorganized, I'll be like, ooh, can you do a video in like 2 minutes?
Unorganized baloney. You have like a production team. You can go from Hilaria in the street to like stand by.
That's like me going to put a bra on, or like right now I have on pajamas and a sweater.
Yes. That's the mullet of
there's
2021.
Yeah. Well, and that's empowering too, because I think a lot of us have thought or think, oh, should this go up or not go up? Especially for me, that's a challenge. I'm an attorney by profession. And so I get a little bit cautious with the language and with what I'm saying, and the freedoms, of that is like a really beautiful thing, I think, because it's just, we all try to be our authentic selves, and we all started writing for the same reason as you, to just like process our feelings of this situation and, what you're going through at the time. But also it's like, how much do I throw out there on the interweb and let run free, So I really admire that.
I think for me, and I know some people are more private than other people. I have, a lot of my really good friends are super private introverts, which is an interesting relationship. But I will say that I've told people, once I started sharing about Amos and kind of these feelings, I had joy again. And I lost my only sibling, Adam, to cancer. We were children. He was 19 and I was 15. And I really had written off joy that was going to be a part of my life. And I had 3 children. I like to say I was PTA president. Damn it, I was a Sunday school teacher. Like, I had it together, but I didn't have joy. And it wasn't until I started sharing that I realized one day I have joy again. And that's the only thing that I was doing differently, was this sharing and being open. And it's like, if I share it and put it out there, it doesn't own me.
Mhm.
Love
You know,
that.
so like the other day I
Mhm.
wrote about Amos is turning 8 years old tomorrow. And, you know,
Yeah.
birthdays, when you belong to a little person that's not following the traditional path, birthdays bring a lot of emotions.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that wants to like get in the bed and cry about it. But then
Mhm.
there's that other part that's like, you know what? I've got to put this out there. I've got to lay this on the line.
Mhm.
And then I immediately feel better. And I'm like, I'm excited that it's his birthday, you know, but I have to acknowledge that I'm sad that I don't really know what he wants, you know?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
Well, we
it doesn't
all
do anybody good to pretend that everything is fine.
right.
Oh, it's so
Yes,
hard.
Yes, yes.
This, in the same way, maybe keeps us more forward. We share more. I know for me, I share more freely and more
Yeah.
like less broad here on the podcast because of the topics that we choose to cover and things. And I feel like there's a couple of things right now that are a little time sensitive going on. And I'm like, can you just be done so that I can talk through it with my people? Like, please, please.
Right.
Because there's so much to like letting it go and feeling like the lesson that you had to go through or process is going to bring somebody some relief by sharing it, because that's so moving. Just Jen and I were talking this afternoon. She just did a piece about medicine and someone's come to her for help and another person has come to her for thanks. And I mean, you just don't know how you're going to touch people when you share the way that we try to, you know?
Well, and I'm so, like I always say, I'm so grateful for people like you and Kate. I'm crying right now because I literally had a mental breakdown about my son turning 7 the other day. And so that just reminded me of it.
Oh.
But in the beginning, half the battle was battling the feelings you have about your child being behind or not. I mean, not knowing what it was, if it was developmental delay, if it was autism. And then part of you feels so guilty because you're like, I bet no other mom feels this way. And so when you read another mom saying something like, oh, my son's turning 8 and this is really hard for me because it's not going to be what I imagine 8 to be, but still my son and I'm happy for him and I love him. But part of it's also sad. Like you need to hear that because you feel so lonely in the beginning. And I know that's why you said you started writing. That's why we all started writing and came together, because not many people around you can relate. You have to really seek out someone who understands and gets that.
And I also think there's a lot of shame on the internet
Yes.
too,
Yes.
saying, oh, you shouldn't say that, you know, that means this, or you shouldn't say that, that means this. So like these moms that don't have other people to support them, like they feel shame by
Meaning
that.
to acknowledge hard, Kim.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, the guilt
Yeah.
too, I think, because mothering's so complicated, or parenting in general is so complicated, you feel guilty anyway. And then on top of that, you know, you feel like you're not doing enough, or you should have known sooner, or you should have tried these other things, or, you know, how could you make the birthday better as you're sweating, trying to carry 47 packages to the car, you know?
Oh my
like,
gosh.
I mean, seriously, like I've had so many moments where I'm just like, oh, wow, reflecting on
feel
how
like-
badly that went, you know?
And the word sweating, like I might
Oh
change
my
my
God,
name
please.
to Adrian Sweating Wood.
We say that all the time.
I was just going to say that needs to be our next bonfire, because if sweating was the indicator,
Yeah.
like how shit has our day been? Like you can see it. You can see it in beads on my face. Count it like a abacus.
Yeah.
Because it's-
So this morning, it was pretty cold here, like in the 40s, which is cold for North Carolina in November. And I had on a tank top and shorts and flip-flops. And my daughter was like, you said it was cold. I was like, oh no, but I haven't gotten Amos in the car yet.
You're right.
Because if you put on a sweatshirt before, you're pouring sweat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
wrestle
Like,
a pig.
We get each other, right? Like we know this.
Yes.
But these
Yes.
other parents, they don't know this. They don't know about the sweating.
No, there's so much
Oh.
sweating.
Some of those moms wear a sweatshirt with nothing underneath it. Like, can you imagine?
Yeah, that would be bad.
Sometimes got to take that off quickly. What I
Yeah.
love about your page is like you were saying, it's just not all autism. I mean, we all live, sleep, eat, and breathe it. So it's, you know, I kind of get excited. I'm a new supporter on your page. strange thing. So
Yay.
excited. But
Yay.
it's just fun. Like you are funny as bleep. You are so funny. And when I first started following you, like Tabitha said, she's an attorney. My father was a lawyer. And so one of the very first things I saw, you're like, my husband doesn't like when I give legal advice.
I know, me too.
And I almost peed my pants
Me
because
too.
it
Made
was
me laugh.
literally, I could hear my dad in my head screaming at my mom, like, don't say that.
That's one of my
Say
yeah.
that, you know?
One of my token sayings on this podcast is, this is not legal advice. This is
That's what I always say. I'm like, I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on television.
Yeah.
I love it.
But if I
What's
were
hilarious-
one, this is what I would do. Well, and my husband has a lot of opinions about a lot of things, but I did get sued a couple years ago. How many years has it been? Anyway, I covered this story in West Virginia where these little girl with autism, the mother was trying to figure out what was going on with her at school. She was nonverbal, so she put a microphone in her hair. And the very first day she came home and heard horrible abuse. And she went through all the right channels. She went to the school, she met with the principal, she was assured, we're going to take care of this right away. Well, 2 weeks went by and she realized nothing had happened. The teachers were still at school. I mean, so I kind of got involved. She had a news, so I started sharing it. Well, the teachers sued me for sharing this recording and saying, defamation or something. So maybe for good reason, he doesn't like me. But I didn't do anything wrong. I mean,
yeah,
I didn't. At the end of my life, I have to say, did I make the right choices? And yes, I did. I think we have to look out for other people, and we just do. We need each other.
Yeah.
You dive into the current event stuff, like the Gabby, I mean, all of this stuff. I mean, it's like watching a investigate, like Rachel said, like an Anderson Cooper in the day.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, my husband's like, you watch so much Dateline, you should be good at that. I mean,
Yes. I can feel it in your tone. I'm like, oh, get it, girl.
oh yeah.
I love that stuff.
When
I mean, I
Alex
don't
gets
love
to the, like, you just, oh, kill me. I love it.
Well, the Gabby Petito thing, I think what's really curious about that. So a few years ago, I covered the story of a little girl named Hanya Aguilar, who was 13 in North Carolina, was kidnapped from her driveway while she was waiting for the school bus. And there was a court date today, and she got no media attention. I mean, I was the most media attention she got. And then you had Elizabeth Smart, right, who was on the cover of People magazine in 4 days. And Elizabeth Smart has really become an advocate for particularly Indigenous women, but saying, why was I on the cover of People magazine? I'm white, I'm blonde, I'm this. So Gabby Petito, same thing, pretty girl, everybody says. But this whole phenomenon of Finstagram, Instagram versus Instagram, which I haven't really talked about, has been what's most curious to me. When we put these pictures up on Instagram, we're telling a story. So usually I see something happening in my house and I take a photo and the scene tells the story. Well, what she was doing was creating the scene to tell the story that wasn't happening. And, I just think there's so much of a lesson in that for all of us and our children.
That's such a spectrum too, because people do that in this angle of the kitchen, even though this is a show. I mean, you do that in a big and little way.
Right. And it's helping no one. It helps no one. Somebody said, you compare your insides to others' outsides. So if you're looking like you got it all together, the other person's like, why am I so crappy? I mean, how come they can do it? Well, really, they're not doing it.
And there's so much science on that. There's so much science on how it messes with your brain and your depression and anxiety and the uptick in that kind of situation, because we're comparing. You can swipe me. I do sometimes at night when I can't sleep, and look at all kinds of different things that could make you feel like you should be doing more, or crafting the world under the sun, or building a ship from scratch, whatever the heck it is that you feel like you should be doing. You see that on Instagram, and it is kind of like a mind melt sometimes, I think.
Yes, it is, Leah.
But I think it's so cool you have a platform because I think, I'm really into true crime. I follow all that stuff. I
Mhm.
get way into it. Like I'm following like secret groups on Facebook. I'm
Right.
like
Oh, yeah.
looking up family members. I'm a
Did
little
you
bit
pause
crazy.
to decide whether or not you were going to say that you
This is what I do. But it's so cool that you can just like, you have a platform where you can literally talk about that. You can talk about autism, and that you've just found this group of people that go along with it, because it is so how so many of us work, because we don't have time. Like, I'm sure you didn't sit down and be like, oh, I'm going to be like investigating true crimes and writing about them or things that are happening. But it's just, you can tell that you just like researching that stuff and you write about it and you're sharing these stories. That's how I found out about the Gabby Petito thing. And then I got on TikTok and it was crazy on there.
And I don't understand TikTok, but I would like to.
I don't either. I do not understand.
We'll have a
TikTok at all.
lesson after we cut
Yeah.
the
It's addictive.
podcast.
I might be too old. No,
You gotta go to the
You're not, no, girl.
teenagers. You gotta go to the teenagers for that stuff.
Well, I'm at a different point in my life. So my older children are almost 16, 14, and 12. And the two older ones have Instagram and Snapchat. Of course, nobody wants Facebook because that's like archaic. And
Yeah, for old
12-year-old
people, I know.
has nothing, which she's bitter about. But my children are now watching what I put up on Instagram.
Yeah.
And so it changes things. 3 years ago, I could tell a funny story about us talking about sex. Well, if I did that now, like, they would excommunicate me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all this good material, and I'm not even allowed to use it.
Supporter page. That's why. Yeah. Put it right into the
supporter page.
No Woods are allowed here, please.
Right.
I know my mom's like, should I join your, because I just started one and I said, no, Mom, please stay off it because I talk about you on it. Stay off of it.
My mother gets on there and I'm like, oh God, here's Mom, watch out.
Yeah.
I love a couple weeks ago, you were like, oh my God, I've got a cousin by the same name. And she's like, hey girl, it's your cousin. And you're like, no, my cousin lives over there. And she's like, no, asshole, that's my sister.
Portland. Oh, I know.
Oh God, I did.
Oh my gosh, I'm the biggest.
I just love it. What, Adrian, I read a post the other day about how Amos has changed you. And I have to say, those make me sob. You single-handedly have made me want to adopt more children. I keep saying that on your posts, like your sibling posts get me in the core. But yesterday or the other day, you wrote about Amos, again, changing you. And I feel like there's such a beautiful lesson to not just like-minded women living the same life, but to our communities in that message. What do you feel like you wish people could learn faster from observing your life and Paige?
I think the biggest thing is that having a disability, special needs, autism, it's not bad, it's just different. And I think that's the biggest thing I didn't know myself. I don't know if I had a post the other night and the comment was, boy, it looks really hard to have a child with autism. I'm so thankful that my daughter is healthy. And, I really stepped back and thought, okay, how does that make me feel now? How maybe did I used to feel about that kind of statement, right? Because I might have been the person that was like, shoo, everything's fine. And I sort of attribute it to the fact that I didn't really know. I didn't have any family friends. I didn't know anybody that was different. And I either wasn't paying attention or they weren't talking. I wasn't listening. So years ago, when we were doing Amos's genetic testing, they thought it was one thing. And so we had like really gone out on this testing. And the one thing that it ended up not being, it's genetic. Like Blair would have a 50% chance of having a child. And she was pretty small. She was maybe about 6 or 7. And I said, how would you feel if you had a baby like Amos? I was, talking about it in a child appropriate way. And she said, well, I would be excited. And I said, okay. And, somebody might say, well, she was, in kindergarten. Blair knows life with Amos as well as anybody does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She ain't no like off in the distance spectator. She lives here with him. So my children, are so much ahead of the curve than I was.
Yeah.
At their age,
Yeah.
And
She doesn't really know any different. This is what she's grown up with.
No, well, she knows, they know their friends' siblings who are
Right.
similar ages, but really they come home and they're like, they're terrible. I mean, they talk all the time and, they're making you do stuff with them. I mean, so it's funny, what you get. Even my own husband will be like, I mean, that child, I can't take all that talking. I'm like, oh gosh, y'all got so spoiled, with Amos boring you. But that's just really wonderful that it's just different and it's hard. We're not going to pretend. And I always say, climbing Mount Everest, not that I will ever do it, but it appears difficult, right?
Yeah. Yes. Also
Just to
beautiful.
clarify, that's actually not going to happen.
Yes, never going to happen. But people act like it's super rewarding. They pay $20,000 to go up the hill. It's the same thing. It's hard, but it's good. And those two things exist simultaneously.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's what I want people to know,
I love that.
You talk about the hard, but I think, and not that you make light of it, but you make it relatable to people, which is, I think, such a beautiful thing, because then you bring so much more to it. This is a hard life. The day to day, it's hard. And all of you have other children, except for Rachel and myself. So I think we've always said, one and done. But when you add the siblings, there's just that other level.
Oh my God, I cry when Blair gets some toast. Like, I can't.
Yeah, we all have a mixed bag of, like, I have 2 children that are both autistic, a boy and a girl. Kim has 3 neurotypical children and 1 autistic daughter. And Jamie has a son who's autistic and a neurotypical daughter. So it's kind of a mixed bag of
we're a nice experiment.
different relationships. Yeah. Yes.
And even Kate, her oldest has autism, then she has 3 more. And I always say to her, like, that it must have been fun. Like, I didn't pay attention to my other 3 just kind of going through these milestones where that's really been a part of her journey, is watching that happen, or y'all haven't necessarily had that either. It's different, everybody.
I don't think to appreciate them though, right? Like the first word.
You don't. You
all
really
of those
don't.
things,
I don't even think, well, I'll just speak from my experience, because I have my daughter who has autism, my second. So I have 2 more after her that like weren't planned. And with my third, I was terrified the whole time, the whole pregnancy. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I was. Everything that she did or didn't do, like, was just, and I didn't feel like I could really let my guard down until she was like 2.5, even though, like, clearly she was typical, but like, I still didn't trust it, because then you hear, of the regression that can happen. So it was like, it's like you would think that you would appreciate it, or for me, but it was like I was too afraid to appreciate it, I guess.
That makes sense.
But with my 4th, she came 2 years later. I mean, I didn't really have time to worry. I just had like get through the
4
day.
kids.
Everybody alive? Is everybody
How many are there?
And at that point, what the hell are you going to do anyway? I mean,
I know.
Worrying doesn't give us one extra day. And I try to, like,
and I also came, so my daughter's
day.
25. So like, it was also a very different time where there just wasn't as much. I mean, there's starting to be awareness when I had my 3rd and 4th, but like, there really, up until that point, wasn't any awareness. There wasn't any people around. There was an online support group. So I didn't have that, like, it all felt like literally like we were the only one. And I had a girl, so there was no other girls that, like, even at school, it was all boys. So it was just.
What's interesting is they say girls are rare. Kimmy has a girl, Rachel has a girl, Tabitha has a girl, and I have a girl, all on the spectrum. So out of the 5 of us at the table, 4 of us have daughters on the spectrum.
Yeah. And I think no matter what, if you have a child who is autistic and you have a child that comes afterwards, you're just like monitoring and watching. And like for me, my daughter hit every milestone on time, talking, walking, the whole gamut of everything. And then she had a significant regression at 18 months. And so we had kind of put our guard down by that point. We're like, wow, this is going great. She's talking, she's walking, using a spoon, like everything. And it was almost like harder. I wouldn't say harder, in a different way than our son's diagnosis, because we weren't really expecting it. And so it was almost like breathtaking in the way that it took place. So I think no matter which way that, you know, these
comes.
it's fascinating, I think, in the way that you experience the emotions after each child, no matter what. And for me, part of the loss, and this is just my feelings, I mean, if people have an issue with it, you know, they can go whatever themselves. But for me, it was, I had to grasp the fact that I wouldn't parent any neurotypical children. I'm only parenting autistic children. And I heard an interview one time where a gal spoke about her 3 autistic children. She was like, you know, I'm lucky because I only have to learn how to parent one way, right? You're not parenting 2 children either, even though each child is different. But for me, it was one of those things that took me a while to, and still, I mean, our daughter was diagnosed, it'll be a year in December. So we're still kind of processing the feelings of all of that. But that was one of the things that was just like, holy cow, this is going to be something, you know, we got to brace ourselves because the ride's going to be, you know, services and everything times 2, you know, and learning about them as much as we can.
So y'all sharing that with me. So that was a perspective I'd never considered, you know, so just hearing that from you, I'll never think about it the same again, which makes me feel more knowledgeable, you know. I think that's the benefit of this. Like, and you said before, social media, I mean, I can't imagine how lonely I would be at this very second without social media, you know, just from people reaching out and offering real advice and help. I mean, it really makes a difference.
And then just the array of people that you reach. Like I said, I had never met anybody quite like my daughter, still haven't, but like in real life, but online,
Jesus,
I remember following Kate before she had a supporter page, and like a lot of us would talk in the comments to each other, and like someone would be like, oh, my daughter does this, and so many things that like I didn't think were autism things, I just thought were my daughter things. And like I'm like, well, other people do this, like other kids do this. This is so I mean, she was like 20 at this point, so it wasn't like really, you know what I mean, but it was just like so mind-boggling to be like, oh, so just the array of people that you can reach on, you know, on the internet, as opposed to like in your area. I mean, I still never came across anybody in my area. I mean, I guess she is kind of one of a kind, my kid. It just gives you just a whole nother gamut of people, really.
It's empowering to, you know, like all our other friends, they talk to each other about, oh, I'm having this problem with potty training, I'm having this and this. And then you're just sitting there like, well, none of this advice is going to work for me. So like finding other people who have been through it or who are going through it at the same time as you is amazing. And we have to do it through the internet. Like it's really hard to find that within your community. And even then, like you might meet a mom at therapy or something, but your lives are so busy that it's just like when you need a network of people.
Wait a minute, like Kate Swenson lives in my neighborhood. Do you think that her isolated life and my isolated life are ever going to cross paths, even being in the same town? Like, no. So it really takes, it isn't about like who's even outside your door. It's,
you guys had to meet on the internet to meet in real life.
yeah, it's real. I mean, it's the gift that we have in creating the communities that we have as the Table for Five, or Adrian has on her page, or Jen has on her page, and all of us, that like we're up against this big battle right now as a family of 3. And I know someplace that there's 4,000 people loving my sweet girl. And that if I could tell the folks what David's hitting my fan, I would know that there's going to be 4,000 people loving her in that moment, you know? And when I want to be on the bathroom floor because I haven't slept in 4 days, like I know that there's a green dot by somebody who loves her that's online at the very same nocturnal hour. It's just amazing. I mean, Adrian, you don't have to go through another genetic test alone. In fact, probably someone on your page now is part of the community because of your advocacy, all of the things that we can reach.
Well, you know, one of the biggest things you mentioned earlier that really surprised me was when I shared about medicine, and it had like 800 comments in an hour, which I was like, that is insane. And all I could think of, and I told Kate, I was like, we got to be talking about this. Like people clearly need to talk about this, but don't feel like they have a space to, because they have just come out in droves. I mean, it was like free Chick-fil-A and they're out.
I know.
Free Chick-fil-A.
I think it's one of those taboo, and I danced around it a little bit, and I went full on it the other day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was a very well received post. You know, we talk about our engagement and all that stuff, but I was surprised I didn't get really any backlash to it. But you know, you talk about all of those things. You talk about politics. I mean, you talk about the things that everyone shies away from. You know, if I would talk
you
about,
lose a lot of followers.
I was gonna say, I mean, I'm very small compared to you, but I mentioned a politics thing the other day, and it was like, I mean, they just
they
drop off in droves.
Right.
They can't take it.
Right.
They can't take it.
I did a little reminder for the people in the back.
Yeah.
Well, one time I went after the Republicans, and then I went after the Democrats, and I lost both. And I was like, you people were quiet on the last post or this post. Yeah. Now you're going crazy. I mean, you know,
I'm just doing a political flush.
Yeah.
I just want the people that want to talk about Lululemons and crimes.
Rachel Hollis is what made me join your supporter page. When you went off about her, because I disliked her for a while, and when you were going off, I was like, yes, because most people in the blogging community, not anymore now that things really hit the fan for her, but they were still kissing her butt because, you know, I'm sure she has books published stuff, but like to hear you talk about her like openly, I was like, thank you, she is such a hypocrite. And she bugged
Look at her face.
Yeah, I guess if I ever write a book, I won't ask her to endorse it. But I mean,
don't just steal your words. So
that person, they clean my toilet. They're my toilet cleaner. I wanted to be like, oh my God, shut up. Like that is horrible. The fact that you would say it, much less think it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you know, did you see the blogger that was out in California? She looked like I'm a hot mess mom, like perfect. And she made up this story when she was in Michael's with her kids that her children were being targeted for trafficking.
I hate those stories too. I hate those stories.
Yeah. And then the people came out and they were like, we were not. We were just minding our own business. She made the whole shit up.
Yep.
Oh my God.
It's like, you people have got to be crazy.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if you guys have watched You on Netflix, but they have this whole like I'm going off on a tangent here, people, but You on Netflix, they have this whole like character, her whole thing is like this fake blog, mommy blog situation that is hilarious. Like all her Instagram posts, all the lighting, like all the stuff.
It's all fake.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like built this life around her blog, her like mommy blog that she's formed with her twin kids.
Kate and I have a theory that there are a few of them that we know are making up stories. We're like, there's no way that happened. Because
you have to run out of material.
It's funny. They made that up.
Yeah.
It's like, really, your life is this interesting all the time? Like, this is why I say I'm not a very good blogger, because I just like don't have things to write about. And that's also another reason I like that you write about multiple things, because I think some people who get pigeonholed in autism or in different things of like having twins or having this, you can tell they start like making things sound a little exaggerated because they're running out of things to say. It's like, write about something different.
Yes.
And sometimes you're sick of talking about whatever it is.
Yes.
Sometimes I don't sometimes I want to just not think about whatever something is, you know?
Yes.
Talk about the hurricane or the way people pronounce places in Eastern North Carolina. I mean,
all Rachel talks about is how I pronounce things. So.
Oh my God.
I was about to say, Kim, you might have like the best accent.
It's so Adrian, watch this. Watch this.
Oh God.
Kimmy, say
I can't do it under pressure.
Bra in a car with my father and my mother.
Bra in a car with my father and my mother.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's like watching that movie with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
I love it.
The best is the trees. There's large trees outside my house.
She grew up in the inner city, Adrian. And so when she moved to the suburbs, you do it.
Yeah, I was like we were talking about, I think, mental health and anxiety. And I was like, yeah, it's just, I moved here and it was just 2 trees. And they're like, what? I'm like, tree.
I just told the internet about suicidal ideations. It's like the worst part about the suburbs is that it's dark and tree.
It is. It's scary. Like when you come from the city, unless you've lived in the city, like you can't understand. To go from the city to the suburbs is like I can't even explain it. I'm like, is there a serial killer on the other side of that bush? Like,
Oh god.
there's no street lights. Oh,
It spiked Kim's anxiety.
Yes,
the
it did.
trees, the trees.
Oh,
And
God.
so there's people in masks out there. I mean, it was just a
That was for
fallout.
Halloween.
That was about
People in
Halloween.
masks.
It's
Yeah.
too
That
dark
was
for Halloween
Halloween.
there in the
Too dark
suburbs.
for Halloween there.
That makes me like want to come and like stand outside your window with a clown mask on.
Tell me what day
Oh.
we're going.
Adrian, have you always lived in a small town, or did you guys relocate to
You
one?
know, I grew up in this part of the state, but I was from a town called Rocky Mountain. It was about 60,000.
Okay.
So, I mean, you kind of knew a lot of people, but not.
I've definitely driven by that driving to Florida.
Oh, yes, right on 95. You know, where we are now, Jamie, it's like if I go to Pizza Hut right now and pick up a pizza, Lisa, the manager, her son is on my husband's soccer team that he coaches, or the UPS man and I might have a daughter in the same class. So I didn't have those connections growing up. It's just neat. Everybody is intertwined in ways. It kind of helps you keep your behavior under control too, because
They're going to be talking.
you never know who you're going to run into again.
Yeah.
I dated a guy from a small town when I was in high school, and it's like only like 30 minutes from me, but it's just a whole different. I live in a pretty big city. Right. And we would go and like we'd walk into like the pizza shop. Like there was one pizza shop, and everyone would just stare because they know you don't belong there.
Right.
Like, where's this person from? Everyone starts whispering. I'm like, yeah, okay, I don't know if I like this or not.
It's so ironic because now I live in the suburbs and I grew up in the inner city. So I lived in the inner city of Boston, and that's how it was there. You know, like your neighbors were reporting to your parents what you were doing. Like if you were on the, wrong side of the street or whatever. Here, I feel like even though it's the suburbs, it's not as, nobody wants to get into anybody's business.
Pull their car into the garage culture. Don't talk to their neighbors. Where you had like 50,000 aunties on every block.
Yeah. And like you'd get home and your parents would already know what you were like up to. And you're like,
oh, Karen called. Don't lie. We saw you on the block.
We moved from San Diego to Montana. So I grew up between the two places my whole life.
Wow.
And I remember when I was like 15, I was driving on the interstate. I don't call it the freeway.
Without speed limit at that time.
No, zero speed limit. And my car broke down and I climbed the fence over to this farm. And this guy's like working in his garage doing whatever. I'm like, hey, time before cell phones, if you want to guess my age. And he was like, I'm like, please, sir, can you let me use your phone so I can call someone to go fix my car on the side of the interstate? But my mentality was like, this guy's going to murder me as I walk up to a strange, because in the middle of nowhere, but he was so polite. He walked me over to my car, waited for someone to show up.
Probably jumped it for you with this
That's
tractor.
the nice thing about small
I'm
towns,
so happy you're still alive.
I could have been murdered.
You would have been like, it's 2-3. I'm staying at the car.
I would have been reporting it on her page.
Adrian, you're in.
Missing from the interstate.
Oh my God.
Very nice in small towns.
No, it is true. So my husband a few weeks ago had this like threw up blood, and he's fine.
We were going to record that date.
Oh God,
Adrian.
Oh, that's when we were going to do it. Well, I'm admitting this to y'all first. So he is like in bad shape. I'm calling 911, and while I'm on the phone with 911, I'm thinking they're going to think maybe I did something to him. They're going to check for the succinylcholine. They're going to be and
he's puking black blood. And
she's suspicious. Now I've been covering this Alec Murdaugh murder mystery in South Carolina. Murdaugh, this guy, his wife and son are murdered, and he calls 911. Well, now I'm like, well, I've called 911, and I know how you act when you're really scared. Because now I've been there.
Just turning it on
in real life.
That case is also very crazy. I was in Hilton Head a couple weeks ago, and I was like, how close am I to
seriously? Yes.
Tell the listeners about this. Now I want to know, because I know nothing about it.
You know nothing?
It's small town,
You should
South
follow this page
Carolina.
on the internet.
South Carolina is pretty, South Carolina. And there is this whole generational family of attorneys. And this one attorney, his son gets out on a boat, he's drunk, and a girl is killed on the boat. And so that's kind of one story. Well, not a few months later, he shows up at his farm and his wife and that same son are found murdered. And then come to find out, his housekeeper who died, she fell over a dog at his house.
At his house, Tab.
Yes. And then he said to her family, oh, here, I'll help you get, sue me, whatever. He gets her a $4.5 million settlement, and he never tells the family. He takes the money and runs.
Oh my gosh. This is getting crazy.
So that comes out.
It's not even begun.
Well, then in August, he's just driving along and he slashes his own tire and he shoots himself, or gets this guy named Cousin Eddie to shoot him. His Cousin Eddie says, I did not shoot him.
Who nicked him in the shoulder or something. So
whether he said he had like a brain contusion. I mean, they ain't no spot on his head where a bullet hit. So now he's in jail.
Now he's in jail. Yes.
He already has
now, but now they're unfolding this whole thing. And it's like, how is it? I mean, it's drugs, it's scandal,
oh my gosh.
Oh, and then Stephen Smith, he died. They found him out in the middle of a road. He was a classmate of the older brothers. And they said the evidence of the murder of the wife and the son, they found evidence about his murder while they were there.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like this is like an episode of The Outer Banks or something.
And then
but it's real. I mean,
oh my god.
And it's crazy that no one was noticing that all these people were dying around this one family, around this one guy.
Well, they're noticing now.
They know now.
My favorite part is that Adrian will show up on the internet, and a podcaster who's now a supporter, Seton will come on, and they do the crime special Tabs. You're not in the right places of the internet.
Well, I love some crime junkies. Like I pay $20 a month for crime junkies. I mean, I'm a full fledged supporter.
Me too.
Yeah. Did you ever get into the Daybell case, Adrian?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm deep in. I grew up LDS. I'm deep into that.
Really? Well, I mean, that case is.
It's all, but the thing is, it's so sad. In both these cases, it's really sad. All these people have died, but it's like people were dropping dead around this woman, and no one thought anything.
I reached out to Daybell's children, and 2 of them responded. Oh, I mean,
I love this life.
And they were, and at the time, the one said, we don't have any comment. We're really sad. And then the other one blocked me. But
then they blocked me.
But the most recently, they've clearly acknowledged that they still seem to be a little bit in the dark about. I mean, she bought a
ring while they were their mom was alive.
A Fruit Loop.
But it is sad because 2 kids died.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's just like, how do people get away with this stuff?
You'd be surprised.
Well, Adrian Wood and her posse are coming for you. They are here to unpack.
I can find some people. I even one time had a Washington Post reporter reach out to me and said, how did you find that person? I was like, I'm not going to tell you my secret.
Yeah. Oh my God, I have a birth dad for you to find. I've got some story for you.
Me too.
I'll find
Me too.
You can, you go down the Facebook interwebs.
Yeah.
You can find who's commenting on whose sibling is so and so. I mean,
move over ancestry.
Okay, I'm feeling a lot better about being on random people's Facebook page.
Oh yeah, the secret Facebook page.
I found out one of the Daybell kids lives near me in Colorado. Ooh. And I've thought about
doing a drive-by, leaving a Christmas loaf.
I feel like it's a little close to stalker.
Yeah.
They seem to be very and maybe it's just too hard to acknowledge the truth that your father would have killed your mother, that you're almost protecting yourself from thinking.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure. There's a psychological
trauma. Yeah.
Shut down.
My husband is not an active, willing participant in my blog.
Mine
I love
either.
when he
I was going
like,
to ask how
he
much
doesn't even
input-
look at you. He looks like straight
says-
ahead and just like answers your questions. Like,
So
come on.
he had this party for 100 people at my house 2 weeks ago. You know, that
like,
he
I'm
told
not
me
doing
notice.
anything.
48 hours before.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm
He
not
told
even-
you 48 hours before. Is that what
Something
you said?
spelled
Well, that's
through.
when he decided. I mean,
Oh.
yes. Who knows? But anyway, I was like, fine, do it. That's fine. But I was like, you're going to do a video every week for a year.
When?
So
It's
tonight-
Ryan.
He was saying something. I was like, oh, that can be our video this week.
My God, I hope he ate lots of appetizers that night.
Yeah. I hope that party was a rager for this commitment.
So my dad is going to be on this weekend because we're flying to Miami on Wednesday, Amos and my daughter and I. And I said, my dad can only be on supporter videos. And I often have to delete them pretty soon after because he's very not politically correct. So
Only on
funny.
supporter videos. Well, go on over to Adrian's supporter page because there's all kinds of fun going on over there.
To be
No,
on
it's
top of
just-
it because things could be deleted before you get a chance to see them. So
yeah, you better hurry. Tune in live.
Tune in live.
click on those notifications the minute you see them.
I mean, yes, that's right. That's right.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
It's wild.
what a treat this was.
Thank you
What
for
a treat
coming.
for us. Thank you for
Yes.
coming.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm excited to start tuning in. And are y'all on Apple Podcast?
Yep.
Yes,
We're
we are.
everywhere.
Okay. Where do I find it? Give it to me.
Table for 5, no reservations, and I'll send you a link.
That's a really
Because I'm
good
blankly staring at the ladies because I am definitely not the girl to give you a link. I can't even get a link on my own page.
Our
That's
last
amazing.
episode we dropped was a holiday PSA. So we went around the table and told the things that we wish we could explain to our family so that about us and about our view so that all of our followers could share it to their friends and family and be like, listen, cut the open shelving. We're coming over.
Bring over the carpenter. Take off all the open shelf.
My kid might get in your bed. Sorry.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Okay,
We
don't
might-
tell me more because I'm going to write a blog post and I don't want to copy y'all.
Yes.
Jamie, he'll get in your bed. I mean, Amos.
Yes. Yes.
Like, someone is your friend when they don't mind your child, like
Yes,
getting in
yes.
their sheets too.
Yes.
I'm not
in the
talking
Under the cover.
sitting on
Yes.
the bed.
All the way in. all the
Face
way in.
down on the sheet. They're sniffing what's
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
But I have a couple friends, two particularly that I could think of. And one Amos isn't really into trains, but when he goes to her house, he likes them. And she has kept those trains under her table in her living room for 8 years. For him.
I love it.
And it just I really feel like I can take him to her house because he'll get the trains out, get settled on her couch, and it's just so nice to feel like there's this, because as y'all know, you go a lot of places and there's not a space.
Mhm. Well, Adrian, we want to thank you so much for your time tonight. As you know from the last hour, we admire you so much. We appreciate all that you do for advocacy and also crime telling and, the rest.
Thank you so much, Adrian.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time. I know it's very late.
Please ask me again. I would love it. Love it.
Thank you. Next week, you are going to hear another round from us. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us at the table for this chat with Adrian Wood from Tales of an Educated Debutante. Check the description box for links to where you can find her. If you are enjoying the podcast and where your listening allows, we would appreciate if you could rate and review us. You can also leave a review on our Facebook page. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can DM us there to contact us or email us at tablefor5podcast@gmail.com. We have new episodes every Monday. Join us next week for a special Q&A episode. We'll see you there. Bye.